Okay, it's about 8:33 p.m. Central Standard Time, Monday, September the 13th. Do you know what that means? It means this is your last lecture, week number 6. Welcome to week 6. This is the final week. Classes will actually end this Friday at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I have endeavored to try to get a jump start on week 5 grading. Several of you have already gotten assignments that were graded for week 5. So I'm going to try to get those done in the next few days. And the key thing is for you to remember that you need to follow the rubric. I will respond to questions again. If you need me, you know how to reach me. And at this juncture, emailing is probably the slowest way. Text me or call me. My number again is 630-660-8480. It is in the syllabus. If you open it up, you will see it there, and you know the parameters about calling me any hour of the day except the 25th hour of the day. So let's go ahead and get started with our final lecture. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Here you are here. Let's do the student preview. And I'm going to start with, of course, the messages. And as you can see in the messages, that you see my recorded lectures, all of the previous weeks, and you also see any other that I sent to everybody, to all students. You don't see the individual messages in there. I blocked those out purposely. The grade book, let's take a look at that. Keep in mind that the rubric in the grade book is where you find your comments. Of course, I covered that during week 4 extensively to explain it to you. So let's take a look at and let's see where we are here. Week number 6. So we have just 3 things, of course, here for week number 6. And those 3 things are the normal things. Your discussion posts on SEC laws and regulations, assignment, written assignment, corporate governance presentation. Remember, you started week 1 with a PowerPoint, and you're finishing up week 6 with a PowerPoint. Now, I'm going to explain and break it down for you in just a few minutes. Okay, but let's talk about the SEC, the Securities Exchange Commission, which is the organization that regulates business and industries to protect consumers. Interestingly enough, I should tell you that if you look at my picture, when I graduated from law school in 1978, you'll see me receiving my law degree I think it was June 18th, 1978, from Dean David Reuter. That was his name. Dean David Reuter would become the head of the Securities Exchange Commission under, I forget which president. But the most interesting part about it is he tried to recruit all of us to come to work with him at the SEC because he felt comfortable with all of us that graduated. And so I know a lot about the Securities and Exchange Commission. It's a watchdog government entity that makes sure that the regulations and laws are satisfied on the federal level. So you can click on this link here and you could see about it. So anyway, here's your assignments for this week. Select one or two laws or regulations you found on the SEC website, which is this, that you think may be subject to change in the next 5 to 10 years. It's interesting. There were many that changed when I was in law school, because keep in mind that there was no internet, there was no World Wide Web, or none of those things existed. So when those came into play, it changed a whole lot of things. And even more so now with the fact that we've had to deal with Enron, and we've dealt with several other ones, but Enron's the most noted one. And you guys remember the discussion about SOX, and those not my team, which is my team, but Sarbanes-Oxley Act that dealt with irregularities. So, but anyway, so you're going to summarize those laws and explain why you think they might change, and just give the reasons. That's in your initial post, which of course is due tomorrow night, the 14th. Okay, and it'd be nice if you acknowledge any sources, though it's not required. Remember, I haven't done that to you, or even though it says that in there. All right, so reply posts, which is due. When is the reply post due? When is it due? There we go. Yeah, Friday. Okay, not Friday. I know. I know what you meant. So yeah, Friday, 11:59 p.m. Not Saturday, like normally. It is due Friday. Of course, though, I always tell students, you don't have to wait until Friday to do it. Because one student said to me, do we have to always wait until the due date? Uh, no, of course not. That's not with any assignment. So even students, some have worked ahead to week 6 when we were still in week 5. So anyway, what you're going to do is you're going to respond to one of your classmates' posts and your impression of the laws and regulations that they presented, and what findings do you raise based on this content. Do you agree with what they say, and can you add something to it, or are they misstating it, or those kind of things? So that's your written assignment that's due by tomorrow night. Initial post and reply post due the last day of class. Okay. In fact, everything's due the last day of class. Okay, just sum it up that way. All right, including your live classroom phrase, which when you come today, like AB has, you can get a jump start and get that assignment out of the way. All right, so now let's look at this last written assignment. Focus in on what I'm saying. We're going to talk about with the rubric, but I want to talk about the assessment. And it's really not that difficult here. One difference is that rather than to make it a Word document, you are allowed in this instance to create a PowerPoint. Okay, and you're going to in your PowerPoint, you're going to create a PowerPoint that you can use in your presentation. So the scenario is quite straightforward. You've been accepted as a new member of the board of directors of a statewide volunteer organization. So to present your expertise and establish your dedication, you offer to develop a presentation about corporate governance for the organization's annual orientation. The executive manager is delighted at this prospect and requests that along with laws or related information, you provide recommendations for building and sustaining a strong, successful company. Okay, so the key is going to be your PowerPoint is going to, the heart of it must be about corporate governance. Corporate governance. which is what we're talking about this week. So here's what your instructions are. It up front says prepare a PowerPoint. Include speaker notes in the note panels. I will be looking for that to explain the details of your presentation. Your presentation should include these items: a title slide. Remember that. A title slide. An introduction slide with an overview and purpose of the presentation. All right. And don't make it very brief when you do that. Give me some detailed information so that when I read that and look at that PowerPoint, I can see what the substance or summary of this and why this presentation is taking place. You already know it's corporate governance, but elaborate on that. So notice what it says. How many slides? How many slides? Yeah, yeah, because you're counting the title slide and introduction slide. So 3 to 5 slides. Very good. Now, these are very important. Notice I'm going to jump to the last statement. References slide as the last slide. Now, so that means one slide for title, one slide for introduction, one slide for reference. And then 3 to 5 slides. Okay. 3 to 5. So minimum is how many slides to deal with these issues? Here is 3. But at least get the 3 in. Please give me detailed information. Please. Now, identify at least 2 laws that might impact the business. Resources that may be useful are in the U.S. Department of Labor website. So you can go to that website. The U.S. EEOC, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. And the Department of Labor manages wage and hours and the conditions that relate to people who work. The U.S. Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC commonly referred to, deals with making sure that there is no discrimination against employees or parties that work there, independent contractors, based on race, sex, national origin, or religion. Very, very, very important. There is a law that is covered under there. It relates to age as well. Okay. And or the U.S. Small Business or the SBA website. So you got 3 websites that are given to you right here. In addition, you earlier had the SEC. So what you're going to do is identify at least 2 laws. 2 laws. Explain what the laws mean and how they might specifically affect the organization. Now, the last statement here is where some students get trapped up, but it's very straightforward. Don't get too deep in it. I already warned you about overthinking. Many of you are good thinkers, but you overthink. Provide at least how many ideas? Yeah, no, not how many slides, but provide at least how many ideas? No. There it is. See, you guys gotta make sure that you gather it. See, that's where you get yourself twisted up here. You got the number of slides mixed up with the number of ideas that I was asking. And the number of laws is 2, but at least 4 ideas or recommendations. Okay. Okay. See, that's why I'm doing this. Okay. Fantastic. Glad you're happy about that. I am happy when my students are happy. Um, Ideas or recommendations for the company to ensure both current and ongoing compliance. In other words, that they're complying with the laws that you are addressing. Please, please, please cite your sources in the paper. This is actually pretty easy to do. So if your source is the U.S. Department of Labor website, then that you're going to cite that, of course. But you also, if you have any the laws and what they mean, then you're going to cite the source of that. It might be the same website. It might be page whatever or paragraph. You know what I'm talking about when we get to this point. So at least 4 ideas or recommendations for the company. And don't tell me these are my own ideas. Yes, they are, but they're supposed to be based upon some relationship to the research. So that's it. That's the assignment. Notice what it says. Doesn't say anything different here. It says create a professional PowerPoint using correct grammar, spelling, punctuation, and APA in-text citations. Did I just say that? And references. We've already been told that, but that's the formula. It's a very easy assignment. Very easy assignment. And like I said again, a student asked me about it last week, but I said I hadn't gotten there yet, and I wasn't trying to be difficult. I try to focus on the topics at hand, and then when I get here. But this lecture tonight is to clarify it. Is this clear about what is expected for this written assignment, even before I even show you the rubric? Okay, all right. It is, the instructions are extremely clear. I agree. I take my hat off to them this time for how they broke it down. All right. Now, let me leave the student preview because I want to go and I want to show you something. Okay, let's get to, oh, by the way, the PowerPoints that I sent you, you will have a whole lot of good information to help you. But remember, don't cite the PowerPoint. Research the information in the PowerPoint and use that as citations. Okay. Because there's some stuff in here that covers that. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about. All right. Now let's get to, excuse me, coughing in your ear there. Let's see it. So everybody in class this last day is going to be under mastery because it tells you an introduction. You already know that. Thorough introduction. Do you see why I said give me details? Give me good details, not a real short thing. I have students sometimes that say introduction, and then they save it for the presentation. No, put the information, put some information, detailed overview, and the purpose of your presentation. You know what? It's almost like what's that thing called? Abstract. It's like an abstract. You know what an abstract is, right? Okay, I think I know the answer to that question. If you have detailed introduction on the slide, will we need to add more to speaker notes? Suppose, well, it depends. If you add enough information, no. So basically your introduction is not so much where you're going to give notes. Your notes are going to be an elaboration of the topic that you have. Remember, you're just giving a summary of it here. Okay. All right. You don't want your say, oh, I put the information in there. No, no, separate it, separate it, separate it. We had this discussion about separating stuff, right? AB. You don't have to worry about it. We already talked about it. I'm not busting you out. I'm just saying that you actually provide an opportunity. By the way, your classmates know your name because not because of me, but because of yourself. But that's good. That's good. That's good. Okay. Because they want to get ABs. Like AB gets ABs. Like his name starts out with. Okay. All right. I already said that before. All right. So, and I'll always remember you because I said, yeah, that's my AB student. All right. One of them anyway. So then the next part is the laws that impact the business. So now you're going to give advanced identification of at least 2 laws. Now a student says, can I give more than that? Forget that because you'll water it down. Do a good job on 2 laws that might impact the business. Okay. Very important. And so make sure that you when you uh, give the advanced identification of the laws, you're going to make sure that you put it in form that a person who knows nothing about it understands where, and then the citation tells them where they can find it. Okay, not just the name itself, but elaborate, start to talk about it, get into the topic. And then your notes. Whenever I do a presentation, um, I will try to include notes that I think that can elaborate so that the PowerPoint itself is not wordy, 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 but that the notes contain emphasis. Um, I compare in a PowerPoint the notes to what we call footnotes. You guys are too young to know about that. We used to have to elaborate on that. We put a number on the page where the topic was. And then at the bottom, we had a little line that was separate, and that was double spaced earlier. But then we'd single space the information, elaborating on it in that. So that it wasn't really the body of it, it was the notes. And we called them footnotes. Okay. All right, so it's easier with APA. Trust me, trust me. I know I had to write a paper before I left law school that 4 out of 5 professors had to agree before I can get out of the school, the front door anyway. Apparently I did it. So laws that impact the business. Okay, so point number 2, meaning and specific effect on how it affects the organization. Note what's the word? Thorough. Thorough. Now, what's your definition of thorough? To me, your definition of thorough ought to be one that a novice can pick up and understand either what you're saying or understand where they can find more information to elaborate on what you said in there. And that's where your notes come in. Got that? So you can have notes, you can have citations in the notes, and you can have citations in the PowerPoint. I want to focus on the PowerPoint, but also you might want to, it doesn't matter if you do it twice because it tells you where you got the information from your notes from. And please don't copy some material from someplace. Be creative and original because it's all going to run through Grammarly. Thorough presentation. of the meaning of the laws and how they might affect the organization. Now, the final part about the content include at least 4 advanced ideas or recommendations for the company to ensure. Now, these are your 4 recommendations based on what you've discovered earlier on and in your PowerPoint. So since you've given thorough explanation of the meaning of the laws and how they might affect the company and organization, so now you're going to make recommendations for how to make sure that's accomplished. You see how they tie in together? All right. Included at least 4 advanced ideas. Advanced ideas. Yes, yes, meaning and specific, and the meaning and the effects on the organization, not just the meaning, but meanings and yeah, yeah, yep. But I know what you mean. And then you're going to recommend at least 4 ideas or recommendations for how to ensure that compliance takes place. All right. Then, of course, we already talked about the formatting and all of that. So everybody's going to be over here. Nobody's looking over here. Okay. You know what I'm expecting of you. And the PowerPoint should be clearly one that breaks down um, the APA format. It says it in the instructions and it says it in the PowerPoint. Any questions at all about this assignment at all? Okay. If anybody listens to my lecture, they should thoroughly be able to follow what it is, and because I think I took the time to break it down and say, oh, I think some of the ways I said some of the things cause light bulbs to come on in your head. Am I right? Hmm. Okay. It's always good when I don't want you in the dark. Okay. All right. Okay. So now let's take a look at uh, good. That's why I spend time in the lecture explaining. I was asked by someone, why don't I use the PowerPoints in my lectures? I said, the reason why I don't is because you only have 1 week. And I should try to keep it as close to an hour as possible. If I had a 2-hour lecture, I probably would use PowerPoints more. But the PowerPoints, as you gathered, if you've used them, help you to understand the reading, and it actually helps you to put meat on the bones of the instructions that are given in the rubric and the module. That's how you should use the PowerPoints. Okay, right, because they coincide with the textbook. All right, so let's look at the calendar for the last time. Okay, let's look at the month view. Let's move this up here. Let's get rid of that. We don't need that right now. It'll pop up if you have a question. Excuse me again. So let's go with the month. So here we are. We're out of juice. The 13th. Your live lecture. If you click on this, it tells you at the bottom, 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. All right. And that's Central Standard Time. It doesn't say that, but your times are based upon where your professor is located. So it is us who set up our calendar that way because we were instructed to do that in our training, because there are some people who instructors that are in the Eastern time zone and the Western time zone. I don't know if we have any in the others, Pacific. I don't know if we do. We might, but there's going to be based upon where they are and so forth. So since I'm here, it's CST. All right. So it tells you your live lecture is on today. That's the thing on today. All right, let's go down. Let's get back to the month. And you see your initial post is due tomorrow by the end of the day, 11:59 p.m. Central Standard. And the course ends on the 17th. And if you click on that, it tells you all day, because it does end at 11:59. 11:59 is the end of the day. 12 o'clock is the 18th. 12 p.m. 12 a.m. I'm sorry. So your written assignment, your discussion post, and your live classroom all due. Not the 18th, not the 19th. I'm going to have somebody that comes back and says, I forgot. Then that means you didn't listen to the lecture. I guarantee you. I make it as clear as I possibly can when the course ends. All right. Let's get now, keep going in and out of here because I'm trying to make sure we do something here. Let's look at the last announcement. So the topic for today is business decision making, because that's what you're doing in your assignments actually. And so you have chapters 21 and 25 of your text and the corresponding PowerPoints. And you're going to complete the activities that I'm going to actually go over with you. Government regulations, comedy. It's not comedy like funny stuff, but you'll see. Regulatory compliance and ethics activity. And then we'll be done. Of course, the link is there too as well. And you already know how another way to find the link to this lecture is click on this. I won't do that because it will create another Professor Wright. My wife already told me one Professor Wright is enough. I thank her for that. I'll give her 27 more years based on that, and maybe then some more. Okay. So the discussion on SEC laws, we already talked about that. And you know the deadline. I'll repeat it again. Tomorrow, the 13th, for initial posts. Friday, the 17th. The 17th for reply posts. Finally, be sure to complete the written assignment, corporate governance presentation that I elaborately broke down for you. Pay close attention to the rubrics. And then also I might add, pay attention to the things that I said in the lecture to help you. Then of course, it reminds you that it is due by Friday the 17th. And then for those who really just don't pay closer attention, in bold print, a reminder is that the term officially ends Friday at 11:59 p.m. September the 17th. And if you could take time to complete your student evaluations you received in your emails. I don't see those. So let's finish strong. And you already know about my motto: adversity is the springboard to success. I know you know well, AB, because you shared that with me at the beginning, and I appreciate that. Many of my students understand that. I totally understand. Oh, you're welcome. I'm a transparent professor. I was talking to a student the other night, and I was actually not kidding what I just said. A student reached out to me by email, and I just happened to see the email on my phone, and said they need help with something. And so I emailed them back and says, call me. It was 11:45 at night. And I was sitting in my car, and I was outside the emergency room where we had taken my daughter who had sprained her ankle, but I just happened to be outside. So I talked to that student for about 35, 40 minutes to elaborate on what needs to be done to help that student. That's how I am. That's me. And I said to my student, I said, name one professor other than Richard Wright who would do this. And he said, oh, I shouldn't have said he because I gave away, eliminated the females. But anyway, forget that. There's more than one he in this class. It wasn't you, AB. So, but the student and I talked you and I have talked extensively other times, but I'm just letting you know that I say what I mean what I say. I love my students and I love my student success, and that's why I share my adversity is the springboard to success. All right, so that's the final announcement there. By the way, if you want to save that adversity to springboard to success, feel free. You don't have to ask my permission to share it. It's public information. I do uh, like to encourage people, period. That's my job in life. That's why I'm also a pastor of a church as well. Okay, so let's talk about, excuse me, first topic, government regulation. So you should be aware, as you are, because this is a course on business laws, and laws starting out at the beginning were to maintain order and protection for business people as well as the public. And specifically here, we referenced earlier the U.S. Department of Labor. I had a professor who when I was in law school, he wasn't the head of the U.S. Department of Labor, but he was high up. And one of my cousins who went to another law school, she ended up working for him for labor law, dealing with labor law. And I just like to read what it says here. It says, um, um, and notice this, I'm showing you something. You see the quote here? Second, it starts with to and it ends with rights. But it says, foster, promote, and develop the welfare of wage earners, job seekers, and retirees of the United States. Improve working conditions, advance opportunities for profitable employment, and assure work-related benefits and rights. And it gives the citation, appropriately, U.S. Department of Labor. So that shows you how to, even in this presentation here, it's cited properly. And that's what I've been trying to get you guys to do. And anytime I've seen you use quotes and you did not give a proper citation, you lost points. Because that's outright not giving credit to the source. So anyway, so that's just a summary of what the U.S. Department of Labor does. And it helps business itself to operate on a ethical, legal, and professional level. And each of the lessons that we've had, you begin to understand how regulations, laws, and organizations operate, and that there has to be someone to oversee making sure that the labor force is working properly, and that is the U.S. Department of Labor. Okay, so we've dealt with consumer activities through the FTC, or the Federal Trade Commission, in previous weeks. And you should be aware of the U.S. Small Business Administration, which helps small businesses to operate successfully, give them some parity, because they are not able to do all of the things that larger business, and it provides guidelines. And incidentally, each state has some regulations that coincide to support those businesses or organizations that operate within that state's jurisdiction. So they work hand in hand as a team. So we were talking about the EEOC. Illinois has what we call the Illinois Department of Human Rights, and they deal with the Illinois fair employment opportunities as well. Many states have the same thing here. Okay. And so I've kind of like giving you the answer is that again, um, there's should I say regulations that are issued. There's laws that are passed by the legislatures on the federal and state level, and these are to enhance our quality of life and those who do business. Environmental protection statutes are determine about the clean air and other elements. And then so it tells you here a statute, uh, the Clean Air Act. Uh, do you know what agency regulates the Clean Air Act? Do you know what agency? Yep, EPA, which stands for Environmental Protection Agency, our water, our air. There are people who don't understand or believe in global warming. I do because I see the effects of it. Yeah, I, as a 71-year-old man, starting to see things happen that should not be happening. But for the fact that we, let me say this, we have so much water and so much clean air, and we need to be able to protect them. Our water has not increased. Our water uh, resources have not increased since the beginning of water being issued to us. And I tell people, I don't, it's up to you if you believe it, by God. But whatever the point of the source of it, we have it here. And water is so important to us because your body is primarily made up of water. You want to be able to breathe clean air. Okay, you don't want your forest fires to start not by somebody dropping a match, but because of the environment that is created, that it just torches up. And a lot of people don't believe that, but that is true. I've never lived on the West Coast, but I understand it. I listen to the professionals. I've learned to respect the experts in their field. Um, God bless the politicians, help them to understand and accept the fact that they are not the ones, as the experts. When I, as a lawyer, put together a case, I want my expert to speak on behalf of me if I'm going to be able to represent my client properly, right? So anyway, um, we have to understand that it affects all of us, all of us. It doesn't matter what party you're in. It doesn't matter what race you are. It doesn't matter what sex you are, sexual preference. We all are going to breathe the same air. We're going to drink the same water. And those are just two of the resources, but there are many others. Excuse me. We have to take care of the land. So um, we understand that if you study the module this week, and particularly the materials in the PowerPoint that I gave you, which coincide with the book, you will understand the fact that they talk about stakeholders and businesses alike would defer to state laws to ensure proper practices. Delaware, as we know, is a state, at least those of us who know about corporate law, is a jurisdiction with the largest amount of incorporation filings. Why is it that way? If you read your textbook, you'll see why. But I'll tell you what I learned in corporations law years ago when I was in law school, and that is because they have the most liberal laws in terms of what corporations can and cannot do. So they are regulated, but not as strictly as other jurisdictions. Okay, so you have the board of directors, of course, deal with the management and operations within the companies themselves, and so forth and so on. All right, so that's government regulation. All right, any questions about government regulation? think of it in terms of making sure that things go well for us here. Okay, now here's what comedy is, not comedy. You got to spell it right. Uh, you know, one is ED, one is IT. Okay, uh, comedy promotes respect among other countries all over the world because there's a lot of international business that takes place now. And we want to be able to deal with the difference in approaches that international business presents. And we are at a point now, as I said, because greater than ever. You can respect the foreign law, but if there is a conflict with the foreign law and where your country is, or your country of origin, you might have some problems if you try to bring those to this country. So what we do is make sure that we uh, make sure that we try to respect um, the differences. Try to keep what we call litigation, which is a long word for lawsuits. And because we deal internationally more so, and one of the things that have brought to the forefront dealings with international law is the World Wide Web, and the internet in itself. And so there are instances such as this example here is a good one here. The Hartford Fire Insurance Company versus California, where the United States Supreme Court had to determine whether or not federal antitrust laws. Now, antitrust laws are laws that try to eliminate a monopoly for a company. Once a company has a monopoly, then they can control the prices and it has an adverse effect on the consumer. If you recall, AT&T was had a monopoly on phone service, but they don't have it anymore because the government broke them up. Yeah, so you guys, you can be pretty young and still remember that. I go way back to when everything throughout the whole country was Bell, but now it's not that. So now we have various companies. In addition, we now have mobile mobile companies, like for example, let's say Xfinity or Comcast. They're not only in the internet, they're not only in the TV, they're also now in the phone business. Spectrum. And see, that depends on where you're located there. And then what they did was they took a jurisdictional thing and broke it down. So the point of the matter is that we don't want one company to control the market in any kind of entity. So it said they had to evaluate whether or not federal antitrust laws were controlling or if comedy would permit the British laws to preempt. And since that time, these types of questions continue to be challenged and disputed and interpretation. And that's a good thing, because what we want to do is open up the communication lines between the foreign countries that we do business with. You run across more and more opportunities where American businesses are doing business with other countries, and you see that. And if your major is international business, you have a chance to go abroad, as I know people who have. They learn the different ways in which, if you come into their country, you're going to respect their systems, but then they are going to. So it's one hand washes the other. Okay, the international version of it. The American Society of International Law deals with the importance, as it says, of international law in many ways. And there's an article that you can take a look at if you click on it here. And okay, so now you know what comedy is. So if you were having a test, which you don't, you would ask, what is comedy? You know, does comedy make you laugh? Or, well, yeah, comedy, but not comedy. Okay. So it's respect for foreign laws. Yeah, you like that one. Okay. Any questions about comedy? Okay. Very important topic because very few companies now, even mom and pop companies, even small businesses uh, deal with foreign companies, and you have to satisfy the laws in both your jurisdictions. Okay, that's it for comedy. All right, we got two more. Regulatory compliance. So we have, as we've already kind of talked about this, where companies want to make sure that they satisfy the legal requirements. Hello, somebody's PowerPoints are working in their heads right now as they go through this. Um, it says if you disregard the legal requirements, you could have a situation that would be poor judgment and can result in misconduct, willful, accidental, and or error. Um, and so you have an organization like the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, which makes sure that there is communication and clear understanding of what the laws are, and that it is important for agencies to do that. So it says, quote, in Cohen, this article that this source came from, you need to be armed with the knowledge of how law enforcement and regulatory agencies value the genuine efforts undertaken by companies to create a culture of integrity. You see, there that word is, that I word that goes with the E word, and that's ethical and respect for the law. Even if you don't like it, you still have to respect it. And it's important for you to begin to understand that you can seek to change the law properly, but you have to operate under the law the way it is. And that's very much so. Otherwise, you will have trouble um, if you're doing, let me say this to you. If you're doing something that's unethical, it's probably illegal or borderline illegal, and or could result in litigation, which is very costly. As many of you know, I worked as a criminal defense lawyer for many years, but I cut my teeth as a kid in a big corporate law firm representing companies like McDonald's, Allstate, and other major corporations. And understanding the regulations and laws that had to be um, adopted. So what do you need here to help you with this? What do you need? Anybody know? It's real easy. How about good lawyer, good legal advice, someone who is specializing in dealing with business law, not just the law, but the regulations and the whole operations. Would you agree that that would be something that some of you already should be on to that because you mentioned that during week one? Is that right? Yeah. It's important. it's important for you to understand that it is so important to have legal representation that is properly prepared to deal with the multiple uh, procedures that you encounter in business. So there's a connection between corporate decision making and regulatory requirements. It says your businesses need to be aware of the laws, and I already told you how you do that, and respect and appreciate. You spend good money. Boy, so the billable hours back when I was a kid at these law firms was $100 an hour. Now they're more like $500 and sometimes even $1,000 an hour for companies to have good lawyers who can represent them to keep them out of trouble so that they don't have penalties and other adverse outcomes. But even then, there's still sometimes when mistakes are made. Overall, a business that accounts for regulatory guidelines is taking proactive steps in building strong and thriving foundation. That's what it says here. I just read it to you, but it's basically what I've been saying. And then he gives the example that EPA has compliance and enforcement specifically to meet the needs of small business and small communities as well. So the point of the matter is that you need good legal representation to help you in terms of that. Very important. I wouldn't hire a criminal lawyer to represent my business. I would hire a person, because even when I started doing criminal law, primarily, I would farm out my information to individuals who were better prepared than me, and I would be of counsel, because sometimes a person trusts the person, but they also need to make sure that. So I would want the best advice to give to my client regarding the various laws. And if I'm not up to speed on them, I want to go to who would be. And sometimes people have to recognize that it's good to spend the money, even if you don't have it. I think I gave the example about my client, the dentist who got ripped off because he didn't want to go get a good patent lawyer. You remember me talking about that earlier in the course? Yeah. So you got to spend money, but get the best. Get the best. So we had a lot of people that came out of my law school. Uh, this one right here on my shirt, Northwestern University, Pritzker, who got heavily involved in corporate stuff. All right, regulatory compliance. So the key there is your attorney or counselor. Yeah, I believe it because I knew him. It's cheap, cheap. His cheap was spelled CHEEP. Okay, that's not proper spelling, but you know, yeah, I don't know where that man is now. He might not even be alive now because he was an older guy then. So, but he could have had a nice estate. So let's conclude. We're a little over, but let's conclude by talking about something that should be very, very, very important to you because of the fact that we've talked about it already. So I don't have to spend a lot of time. And it talks about the fact that um, um, legal and ethical responsibilities have changed because of technology and the digital era. And it's important for people to understand that and recognize that the compliance is in the state, possibly the federal or local, depends on the kind of business. Okay. Should be should there be state fees? Why or why not? There's your brain should be functioning and operating right now. Just listening to this. Oh, okay. I see now where I can get some help with my assignment here. Should there be a sales tax? Why or why not? At what levels, state or federal? Depends on the type of business. What is the impact of the state and or local laws on online commerce? Those are things you have to think about. And then finally, where does jurisdiction lie? The state, local, federal, and why? I think you're going to find that in most instances, there's cross jurisdictional issues there involved. Okay, and that's it. Okay, the good old flames of Northwest, flames of Rasmussen. Okay, we are done with today's lecture. We are done with the course, but I'm going to make some comments about that in a little bit. But I'm going to give you a key phrase first. Any ideas? Yeah, no, that's something kind of we boarded on earlier. There's something specifically that I talked about. I started out by talking about it, and I talked about it just a few minutes ago again. It's on the federal level. Hey, somebody's listening. I guess it's only us two here, so yeah. Give me, but this is what I want you to do. Don't just give me SEC. Give me what it stands for. Securities Exchange Commission. If you give me SEC, you're not going to get the points. There we go. Securities and Exchange Commission. That is it. SEC. So give me that. If you want to do them both, you can, but please, to get your points, give me the full name. So anyway, it's been a pleasure working with you guys. I'll be going back to the criminal justice side, probably to surface again in the future when they need me in the business side. This has been an interesting course for me as well as you because it was new. There's some things that I learned. There's some mistakes that I made that I learned that the next time I teach it. And but one of the things I did learn that was very important was to drum into your heads the importance of following the rubrics and modules because that's the way to develop your success in the future in other classes as well. Even if you don't have a professor that is as dogmatic as me about those things, I gotta just believe that you should get the right stuff, no pun intended. Yeah, so yeah, but you're welcome. And I tell my students that somewhere down the line, you'll end up coming back to me for something. I've had many students that come back to me later for letters of recommendation or assistance when they're getting ready to get employment. And I've helped some get some promotions. I think I talked about this earlier in the course. And they're my friends on Facebook. So Richard Wright, JD is how you can do that. I'll type it in here, Richard Wright, JD. And that's my Facebook thing. And I have many friends in business that I've been able to see climb the ladder. So again, it's been a real blast. Quick 5.5 weeks. Again, I look forward to meeting you and to be of help for you guys further down the road. So enjoy your break. We start back classes. I think it's October the 4th. I forget what. Let's see. Is it? Let me see. I think it is. It's that Monday, that first Monday in October, which is I believe it's the 4th. Let's see. I'm turning my calendar. Friday's the 1st. Yeah, the 4th. Yes. So So I'll just use this term, may the force be with you in October. So I won't see you guys, unless you change your major to criminal justice. But the point of the matter is do remember what thing that I've stressed. Um, excellence. Focus on, live up to your name, AB, and hope it's contagious to everybody else. Uh, uh, okay. All right. So stay safe, and I'll see you guys down the road. Have a good one. Thank you.